What if I told you that the planet sitting quietly next to us in our solar system has been hiding one of the greatest secrets in the history of the universe? What if Mars, that cold, dusty, rust-colored world, was never truly dead? What if life existed there once, or worse, what if it still does right now, buried beneath the surface, waiting to be found? This isn't science fiction. This is a question that the world's greatest scientists, NASA engineers, and space agencies are asking every single day. And today, we're going to go deep, deeper than any rover has drilled, into the real evidence, the real mysteries, and the real possibility that Mars is hiding something extraordinary from us. Let's start with the basics, because before we can understand the mystery, we need to understand the planet itself. Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun, roughly half the size of Earth, with a thin atmosphere made mostly of carbon dioxide. On the surface, it looks barren, frozen, and completely inhospitable to life as we know it. Temperatures can plunge to negative 125 degrees Celsius at the poles. There's almost no oxygen. The atmospheric pressure is less than 1% of Earth's. By every measure we have, Mars looks dead. And yet, scientists keep going back. And every time they do, they find something that makes them stop and ask the same question all over again. Why does this planet keep surprising us? The story of Mars and life actually begins billions of years ago. Around 3 to 4 billion years ago, Mars was a completely different world. It had a thicker atmosphere, a magnetic field protecting it from solar radiation, and most importantly, liquid water. Rivers carved valleys across its surface. Lakes sat in ancient craters. There may have even been a vast ocean covering the entire northern hemisphere of Mars. We know this not because someone told us, but because the evidence is written directly into the geology of the planet. NASA's rovers have found ancient riverbeds, lake sediments, and minerals that only form in the presence of liquid water. Mars was once wet. Mars was once warm. And on Earth, wherever we find liquid water, we find life. So the question becomes, did life emerge on Mars during those billions of years when conditions were right? And if it did, where did it go? Now here's where things start getting really interesting. In 1996, a team of NASA scientists made an announcement that shook the entire world. They had been studying a meteorite, a rock that had been blasted off the surface of Mars by an ancient asteroid impact, drifted through space for millions of years, and eventually landed in Antarctica. Inside that meteorite, named ALH 84001, scientists found what appeared to be microscopic structures that looked eerily similar to fossilized bacteria found on Earth. The scientific community was divided. Some said it was contamination. Some said the structures were too small to be biological. But others, including some of the most respected scientists on the planet, said the evidence was compelling enough to take seriously. That meteorite is still studied today, and the debate has never fully been resolved. A rock from Mars, sitting in a laboratory on Earth, that might contain the oldest evidence of life ever discovered. Let that sink in for a moment. Then came the rovers. Spirit, Opportunity, Curiosity, Perseverance. Each one landed on Mars, and each one found something new that added another layer to this deepening mystery. Curiosity, which landed in Gale Crater in 2012, found complex organic molecules, the chemical building blocks of life, preserved in ancient rocks. It detected seasonal fluctuations in methane gas in the Martian atmosphere. This is significant because on Earth, the vast majority of methane in our atmosphere is produced by living organisms. Cows, bacteria, decaying organic matter, life produces methane. On Mars, methane is appearing and disappearing in patterns that scientists cannot fully explain through geological processes alone. Something is producing it. Something is consuming it. And we don't know what. Perseverance, NASA's most advanced rover, landed in Jezero Crater in 2021, a location specifically chosen because it was once an ancient river delta, a place where life would have had the best possible chance of surviving. Perseverance has been collecting rock samples that will eventually be returned to Earth by a future mission. Scientists believe that if microbial life ever existed on Mars, the rocks of Jezero Crater are the most likely place to find its fossilized remains. We haven't gotten those samples back yet, but the anticipation in the scientific community is unlike anything seen in decades. These aren't just rocks. These are potentially the most important objects in human history. And then there's the underground. In 2018, the European Space Agency's Mars Express spacecraft used radar to detect what appeared to be a liquid water lake buried beneath the south polar ice cap of Mars. roughly 20 kilometers wide, sitting about 1.5 kilometers below the ice. On Earth, we have found life in subglacial lakes in Antarctica, lakes that have been sealed off from sunlight and the surface for millions of years, yet still teeming with microbial life. If Mars has liquid water underground, shielded from radiation, kept liquid by the pressure and perhaps by salts or geothermal heat, then the possibility of current, living microbial life on Mars is not science fiction. It is a serious scientific hypothesis backed by radar data from a spacecraft in orbit around another planet. But here's the part of this story that doesn't get talked about enough. In 1976, NASA landed 2 spacecraft on Mars, the Viking landers. They were sent with one primary mission, to search for signs of life. They scooped up Martian soil, placed it in their biology labs, and ran experiments. And one of those experiments, called the Labeled Release Experiment, gave a positive result. A result that, if it had come from a soil sample on Earth, would have been immediately interpreted as biological activity. The lead scientist on that experiment, Dr. Gilbert Levin, spent the rest of his career arguing that Viking did find life on Mars in 1976. NASA disagreed, attributing the result to chemical reactions in the soil rather than biological ones. But Dr. Levin never backed down, and a growing number of scientists today believe the Viking results deserve a fresh look with modern understanding. So where does all of this leave us? We have a planet that was once warm and wet. We have organic molecules in its rocks. We have methane appearing mysteriously in its atmosphere. We have a possible underground liquid water lake. We have a meteorite that may contain fossilized microbial life. We have a rover collecting samples from an ancient river delta. And we have a 1976 experiment that one of its own scientists believed detected living organisms. Mars is not just a cold, dead rock. Mars is the greatest mystery in our solar system, and every piece of evidence we gather seems to whisper the same thing, that we are not asking a crazy question. We are asking the most important question humanity has ever asked. Are we alone? The search for life on Mars is not just a scientific endeavor. It is a philosophical one, because if we find even a single fossilized microbe in a Martian rock, if the sample return mission brings back one piece of biological evidence, it changes everything. It means life is not a miracle unique to Earth. It means the universe is filled with life. It means that somewhere out there, on planets we haven't even discovered yet, life is growing, evolving, and perhaps looking back at the stars the same way we do. And it all starts with Mars. It starts with the question we refuse to stop asking. Mars is not hiding from us out of cruelty. Maybe Mars has been waiting for a species curious enough, brave enough, and determined enough to finally come and listen. We sent our robots. We are collecting the rocks. We are analyzing the atmosphere. And one day, maybe sooner than any of us expect, we are going to get our answer. And when we do, nothing about the way we see ourselves, our planet, or our place in this universe will ever be the same again.